focus. The heart is mostly the organ responsible for providing the body with the enough oxygen it needs every single day of our lives. In this lesson, you are going to learn about the anatomy and physiology of the heart and how it relates to fitness. At the end of this lesson, you are supposed to know the different parts of the heart muscles and its general functions. Second is to know the different health-related diseases of the heart as a result of inactivity and improper habits. Third is to gain knowledge on the proper exercise prescription and other factors that can develop the improvement and health of the heart. Fourth is to compute for intensity levels of the heart during physical activity. Fifth is to evaluate current CV endurance fitness level through series of heart rate tests. Sixth is to analyze the importance of perceived exertion of the heart and how it can determine current fitness zone and exertion. And lastly, discover the benefits of regular physical activity and exercise to the heart and its fitness. Today, you are going to gain knowledge on the following. First, we will dwell on the different functions and parts of the heart. Second is that we will discuss some interesting facts about the heart. We will also explore the different risk factors that affect the functioning and health of your heart. Then, we will go over some of the common cardiovascular diseases that a person may experience in his or her lifetime. The next topic will be about physical activity and the heart, how it affects its general state and condition. And lastly, you will learn about the specific exercise prescription for the heart to improve its functions and health. How your heart performs can also determine your current health and performance in exercise. This is why you will also learn to do some basic computations for your maximal heart rate or MHR. We will also compute for your heart rate reserve or HRR and also your threshold heart rate or THR. Then, we will try to determine the most applicable target heart rate zones for your physical activity level. And finally, you will determine the importance of ratings of perceived exertion or RPE in relation to your effort in exercise. Close your right or left hand and place your thumb over your four fingers. What this is the approximate size of your heart. Your heart is one of the strongest organs of your body that work day in and day out to support all the activities that you are performing every single day of your life. I've mentioned in the earlier discussions that the heart is a specialized muscle in the body. The heart is mainly composed of cardiac muscles, and it is one of the three muscles that make up our whole body system. These cardiac muscles are unique because their structure is specifically designed to generate great force and pump out blood towards the lungs and also to the different parts of the body. In order to develop this muscle, you must challenge it by performing rigorous exercise to increase its pumping capacity. We will get to this later in detail during the lesson. For you to better understand the heart, you must first have an idea what its specific function and the different components it is made up of to play the role of supporting numerous processes of the body. Are you familiar with the different parts of the heart and its functions? Or you can't seem to remember what they are? I'm pretty sure you have encountered this in your earlier years of study in science. Let's try to recall them today so that you would have a better understanding of its roles in physical fitness. In simplest terms, the heart is a pump that brings blood to the different parts of our body. The blood that courses through our veins carries oxygen and numerous nutrients which are greatly needed in many of our body's internal processes. Without the heart functioning as a strong pump, our bodies will not be able to sustain life and we will surely die. Human anatomy is a branch of science that deals with the study of the human body and its different structures. In this part of the lesson, we are going to explore the different parts of the heart and how each of these parts work hand in hand to support the body. Did you know that the heart is composed of several chambers? In the study of human anatomy, the heart is divided into different sections for you to be able to understand how it clearly works. The heart is divided into the right and left sides, where each side contains two different chambers. These chambers of the heart are called the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. In total, the heart actually has 4 different chambers, and we will discuss the functions of each in the next part of this lesson. Now you know the basic structures of the heart. This part of the lesson will cover its physiology. Physiology is a branch of science that deals with how several organs in the body work together to keep the body within its normal function. Physiology and anatomy always go together in the study of living organisms. Let's look at how each of these chambers of the heart function in the body. To put everything in its simplest form, both the right and left atrium serve as reservoirs of the heart. These sections of the heart collect blood that is ready to be transported to the ventricles of the heart, while the ventricles are the chambers responsible for transporting blood to the lungs and to the different parts of the body. All 4 chambers work in synchronization because of interconnected nerves found within the heart's muscle walls. These nerves generate impulses to the different heart muscles, causing it to make its pumping action. Within the heart's series of chambers, there are different valves which serve as important structures that prevent backflow of blood within the heart during its pumping cycle. What do these valves do? As the heart pumps blood within its walls and towards the body, these valves open and close to prevent backflow of blood within the heart, the lungs, and the whole of the body. Let's look at how each of these valves function. The 2 valves located between the atria and the ventricles are called the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. The tricuspid valve is responsible for preventing the backflow of blood between the right atrium and the right ventricle, while the bicuspid valve prevents the backflow of blood between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Another valve of the heart is the pulmonary semilunar valve. This valve is responsible for preventing the backflow of blood between the heart and the lungs. As the pulmonary semilunar valve opens, it collects deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle and brings this blood towards the lungs. And then it closes back up again, preparing for the next heart contraction. Once blood goes through the lungs, it then becomes oxygenated blood that the body can utilize for many internal processes. This oxygenated blood then makes its way within the left atrium, ready to pass through the aortic semilunar valve. This valve prevents the backflow of blood between the left ventricle and other parts of the body. As this valve opens, it draws in blood ready to be transported to multiple parts of the body. And then it closes again, preventing backflow and preparing for the next heart contraction. Other important parts of the heart include the veins and arteries. These networks of blood vessels function well in putting blood in and out of the heart. The veins are responsible for putting blood back to the heart. They are the part of the heart that is responsible for making blood flow inside of the heart, which comes from the upper and lower parts of the body, while the arteries are the part of the heart responsible for bringing blood out from it. 2 main arteries are responsible for this role, and these are the pulmonary artery or the pulmonary trunk, where deoxygenated blood leaves the heart traveling to the lungs for oxygenation, and the aorta, where oxygenated blood leaves the heart to be distributed to the different parts of the body. This part of the lesson might get a little confusing for you, but just bear with me on this and pay attention. We will go through the steps on how the blood flows within the heart. The heart pumps blood at a controlled pace where each of its chambers, valves, veins, and arteries work together to supply the body with oxygen and several forms of nutrients. The heart goes through a series of contractions and relaxations every single second of your life. This part of physiology is called the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle begins when deoxygenated blood fills the right atrium. When the atrium has been filled, the tricuspid valve opens and sends this blood towards the right ventricle. As soon as the right ventricle is filling with blood, the tricuspid valve closes to prevent backflow of blood between the two chambers of the heart. As deoxygenated blood is contained within the right ventricle, the pulmonary valve opens and blood is pumped through the pulmonary arteries. During this time, deoxygenated blood travels to the lungs for it to be oxygenated. As this part of the cycle finishes, the right side of the heart then relaxes, ready to be filled with the next batch of deoxygenated blood. When oxygenated blood from the lungs goes back to the heart, it makes its way to the left atrium. As the left atrium fills, the bicuspid valve prepares to open, to send the blood towards the left ventricle. When the left ventricle has been filled, the bicuspid valve closes to prevent backflow of blood between the two chambers. Oxygenated blood within the ventricle passes through the aortic artery or the aorta. This is the part where the oxygenated blood is then pumped and transported to different parts of the body through several networks of nerves. During this process, the aortic valve closes, preventing backflow of oxygenated blood back towards the heart while it is being transported through the different body tissues. The cycle then repeats itself over and over again. It will only slow down if you're not physically active, and it will get stronger if you take the time to strengthen it. Day in and day out, these muscles continuously contract and relax to support many processes of the body. Death is the only moment where this organ stops and fails to function. That is why this organ is a separate muscle in itself. Despite of its size, its capability of performing work every second of your life makes it the strongest muscle of your body. Physical activity, exercise, and good habits are the keys to developing this organ. But we will go through this later in the lesson. If you want to learn more about how the heart works, you can visit this link and check an animation of heart anatomy and physiology discussed by a professional. It shows a walkthrough in the different processes that occur within the heart. Now you know how the heart functions, let's discover more amazing facts about the heart. In this part of the lesson, we will look at how it works and how physical activity and exercise affects this organ. Fact number 1. A fit heart muscle will result to increase heart muscle size and power. During our discussion in Lesson 3, Fitness Tests, what is the usual heart rate at rest? Can you still remember? An average person's heart rate is between 60 to 100 beats per minute. This is during 0 to low levels of effort. If the heart is kept strong through exercise, its tendency is to increase in size and generate more power for its pumping actions. Athletes have relatively large heart than non-athletes because of extreme physical training and the demands that they impose on their bodies. This condition leads to lower heart rates, causing the heart to beat less. It also causes the heart to pump out the same or greater amount of blood to the surrounding tissues, with less effort compared to their non-athlete counterparts. Here is a scan of a non-athlete and athlete's heart. Did you notice the size of the atrium and ventricles? Can you see the difference in its general circumference? Is this normal or bad? Though this size is beyond normal, research suggests that this should be encouraged. This is because the heart is placed on less stress because of its increase in size and power. An activity performed on a daily basis can largely affect the heart in many ways. This is the reason why exercise is a great contributing factor to a healthy heart. Fact number 2. The heart is like any other muscle. Therefore, to make it strong, one must exercise it. When you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to discover something about yourself, particularly how well your heart is doing at the moment. What you simply need to do is to get your resting heart rate, or RHR. Resting heart rate refers to your heart's pumping action when you have gone from a fully rested state. The best time to get this is in the morning when you have just woken up. Remember how we palpated your heart rate before exercise during the fitness test in Lesson 3? You will do the same thing with your resting heart rate. You need to prepare a watch or a wall clock for this test the night before you get your RHR. Again, you are going to use your index and middle finger to feel your carotid artery. This time, once you wake up from your bed, you will count the number of beats your heart made for a full minute. Your test will not be accurate if you stand from your bed and you begin to take your heart rate, or when you moved a few steps already away from your bed and you took your heart rate. You need to be in a fully rested position because any movement done by your body, your heart will pump and exert extra effort, making your results inaccurate. Know that the ideal resting heart rate for healthy adults is between 60 to 100 beats per minute. Did you get your resting heart rate? What score did you get? Did you follow the general instructions before you performed the test? What does this score mean? Did you get a resting heart rate higher than 100? Just like in the previous lesson, I hope you remembered that active people have relatively lower heart rate than normal. Their heart rates usually range below 60 beats per minute. This is what the heart undergoes when you exercise and become very active. The heart muscles become fit and strong the same way that other parts of your body are developing. Fact number 3. The heart is more efficient than an automobile engine is. What it does is that it converts one half of its fuel, which is blood, into energy that can be readily used up by the body. While a car engine can only convert 1/4 of its fuel into usable energy. The rest of it is further converted to heat and exhaustible energy that the car rids off of its system. Our hearts are more efficient than a car engine because unlike car engines that get to rest when it is turned off and parked, our hearts never do that. It works when we are awake and even when we are asleep. It is an engine that has more horsepower than any other engines, capable of giving us life and supporting us every second of our lives. Fact number 4. On average, our hearts beat 4,000 gallons or 10 tons of blood per day. Can you imagine this machine in your system doing this? This is a sign of life that can be felt through the different arteries that radiate pulses outside of the body. The two arteries that are commonly used for pulse rates are the carotid and the radial arteries. There are other parts of the body where you can feel this pulse, such as the brachial artery, a pulse that can be felt on the inside of the elbow. Another one is the femoral artery, a pulse that is located within your groin area. Third is the popliteal artery, a pulse found behind your knee. Fourth is the posterior tibial artery, a pulse felt near the ankle. And lastly is the dorsalis pedis artery, a pulse felt directly on top of the foot. These pulses are important, especially during life-saving situations where first aiders check for signs of life. Without these radiating pulses, immediate medical attention must be sought. Try feeling some of those pulses from the mentioned areas. Pulse rates can be measured by following any of these intervals. 1 full minute, 30 seconds then multiplied by 2, 15 seconds then multiplied by 4. During exercise, this pulse rate increases, just like during the fitness test that you have performed in Lesson 3 for the cardiovascular endurance, which is the 3-minute step test. Lastly, fact number 5. On average, the heart beats 40 million times per year. It does this continuously and can also increase its rate depending on many factors like activity, health, and habits. It will beat over 2.5 billion times on an average lifetime of 70 years. It is an unstoppable machine that only death can terminate. Can you imagine how resilient this organ is? Can you just imagine how much effort and work it goes through when it is not strong enough? How about when it is affected with disease? What do you think will happen to you if this organ fails to function? We now go to the next part of the lesson, which are the risk factors that can affect the heart. As I've mentioned earlier, the heart's function can be affected by many factors. Its efficiency is based on how you take care of it, as well as the traits that you have acquired from your parents. Here are some of the risk factors that may affect your heart function. First is your lifestyle. This actually accounts as the greatest factor and contributor to the health of your heart. Like what we've been discussing in the previous lessons, bad habits like smoking, drinking, and overeating can directly affect your body, especially your heart. Another risk factor for your heart are your genes. Does your mother or father have heart-related diseases like hypertension? Are any of your close relatives suffering from heart diseases? If in your family history these heart diseases are present, your heart is at high risk of also conducting these diseases. One way or another, your genes may acquire these diseases directly. They may appear early or later on in your life, but it will have an effect on your heart functions. Another factor that may put your heart at risk for diseases is when you have high body fat. This high body fat is a result of an inactive lifestyle and poor food choices. What this accumulated fat does is it builds up within the walls of several arteries in the body. These arteries can also be found within the heart's muscle walls, which can also accumulate these fat deposits. As a result, you may develop heart diseases that may cause major complications in your body and can possibly be a cause of your death. Do you smoke or drink alcohol on a regular basis? Bad habits like these examples contribute to the decrease of oxygen delivery of the blood to the body. As a result, your blood becomes thick and your heart's pumping effort is increased, giving your heart a hard time to supply your body with the enough oxygen and nutrients it needs. And the last factor that may put your heart at risk for diseases is tension and stress. Are you stressed out most days? Do you think too much about things? Do you sweat even the smallest detail of your life? Tension and stress directly affects your heart. What it does is that it increases your blood pressure and your veins are restricted to regulate blood flow within your heart's chambers. Prolonged stress can not only affect your disposition, but it can also cause difficulties relating to your heart. All of these risk factors can be prevented if you are conscious enough about making positive life choices for yourself every single day of your life. If you continue on going about a poor lifestyle, you are putting your heart at a very high risk for many diseases, which we will discuss next in this lesson. Just like any other organs within the body, the heart can be affected by many different kinds of diseases, especially when you don't take care of it. The diseases related to the heart is collectively called as cardiovascular diseases or CVD. Here are the different cardiovascular diseases that we will discuss today. All of these diseases are related to the risk factors that we've discussed earlier in the lesson. Let's try to explore them one by one. We start with hypertension or high blood pressure. This is a condition in which a person has an abnormally high blood pressure within the artery walls. It is the most common cardiovascular condition that occurs for a prolonged period of time, sometimes without even direct physical symptoms. The long-term force of the blood that is pumped within the walls of the artery may eventually lead to a lot of health problems like heart diseases and stroke. What is the cause of hypertension? A lot of factors need to be considered when a person has hypertension, because it may come from an underlying source. Age, drinking alcohol, smoking, doing drugs, taking certain medications, engaging in exercise, and even hereditary traits can be a direct cause of hypertension. The only way to detect this is to have your blood pressure regularly checked out with the use of a sphygmomanometer, just like in this example. You can ask the help of a healthcare professional by visiting a healthcare clinic if you do not know how to get your blood pressure or you do not own a sphygmomanometer of your own. Blood pressure is read using the systole over diastole reading. Systole is the phase during the cardiac cycle where the heart muscles contract, while diastole is the phase during the cardiac cycle where the heart muscles relax and fill with blood. A normal blood pressure is 120 over 80, while a low blood pressure is less than 100 over less than 60, and a high blood pressure is greater than or equal to 180 over greater than or equal to 100. Athletes or individuals who are engaged in regular exercise generally have lower blood pressure because their hearts have a strong pumping action. If you live an inactive lifestyle, this will take a toll on your blood pressure sooner or later. We will get to this later in the lesson. Second type of heart disease is the coronary heart disease or CHD. This is a condition that affects the proper functioning of the blood vessels and muscles of the heart. This condition occurs when there is a buildup of fat deposits called plaque that block the walls of the arteries. When this happens, blood flow is restricted within the heart muscles, causing oxygenated blood to travel poorly within the chambers of the heart, causing the muscles to get damaged. The body will also lack the enough oxygen supply it needs, causing other complications in our system. What do you think are the causes of fat deposits within the walls of the arteries? The risk factors that I've mentioned a while back are contributing factors to fats depositing within the walls of the arteries. Habits like smoking and living a sedentary lifestyle could lead to CHD. Constantly having high blood pressure and high cholesterol levels for a long period of time also directly affects the arteries of the heart. What do you think will happen if this condition gets worse? If this condition is further aggravated, the result would be catastrophic. It could cause permanent damage to your heart muscles and worse, your death. Have you ever had chest pains in the last 6 months? Has any one of your family members experienced this? Another heart disease that is directly associated with coronary heart disease is called angina pectoris. This is a medical term used for chest pains. This happens when the muscles of the heart do not get enough blood because one or more arteries of the heart are narrowed or blocked. When this happens, you should be aware of symptoms like uncomfortable pressure or squeezing pain in the center of your chest. In life-threatening situations, you must be aware that symptoms of angina pectoris also include discomfort in your neck, shoulder, jaw, back, or arm. All symptoms of angina pectoris must be taken seriously, and when this happens, professional help must be sought immediately. Another heart disease associated with blockages in the arteries is called ischemia. This is when a lot of the arteries of the heart are blocked by fat deposits or the arteries are narrow, causing the failure of delivery of blood and oxygen to the heart muscles. The result of this can lead to abnormal heart rhythms and worse, a heart attack. The disease can be treated through medications or through bypass surgeries. This is where a procedure will be done to open the blocked arteries of the heart, allowing blood flow to take place again. We've mentioned a lot of diseases that are related to blockages in the arteries and high blood pressure. These are all long-term conditions that, if remained untreated or prevented, will eventually result to a heart attack. Heart attack is a condition also known as myocardial infarction and is one of the leading killers in different societies worldwide. A heart attack can occur because of a blockage or several blockages in the arteries, which lead to lack of oxygen and blood flow in the body's circulation. When the lack of blood supply happens, the muscle walls of the heart are damaged. Due to the lack of blood supply, oxygen within the body therefore becomes limited, and as a result, other complications brought about by the disease may occur. Stroke is usually associated with heart failure, but we will dwell on it later. A heart attack may be prevented, while some cases can instantaneously lead to death. It is important that if symptoms like chest pains, radiating pain in the shoulder, jaws, and neck, you must seek immediate medical attention, and don't let the condition be aggravated further. Once a heart attack occurs, permanent damage to the heart muscles will be prominent, and this can only be repaired through surgery. Another type of cardiovascular disease is atherosclerosis. This is the medical term used to refer to deposition of materials along the arterial walls of the heart. The heart is a muscle, and just like any other muscle, if it is not strengthened or challenged, fat layers may build up over these muscles and can cause complications. These fat deposits are known as cholesterol, and there are two kinds of fat that you must be aware of, and these are high-density lipoprotein or HDLs. These are the good cholesterol. What this type of cholesterol does is it picks fat in the blood and sends it to your liver to be processed and delivered out from the body. HDLs can be found in food sources like fish, vegetables, nuts, and lean meat. These cholesterol, when taken in right amounts, can be very beneficial to the body because they draw out the bad cholesterol from your system. The second type of cholesterol is the exact opposite of your HDLs, and this type of cholesterol is called low-density lipoprotein or LDLs. This is the bad cholesterol. This type of cholesterol is the fat that builds up over time in the arteries. This type of fat builds up in the body when you constantly have poor food choices and you live a sedentary lifestyle. LDLs in high amount can be very detrimental to your health. The buildup of this kind of fat can be resolved when you engage in regular physical activity and you choose a better lifestyle for yourself. During exercise, the LDLs are burnt and used up by the body as an energy source, eventually dissolving and leading to a healthier heart. Another cardiovascular disease is known as arteriosclerosis. Unlike other conditions that occur because of poor lifestyle choices and bad habits, this condition occurs with age. The condition is described as the hardening of the arteries, making it thick, hard, and non-elastic. When this happens, blood flow is restricted and the body lacks the enough oxygen it needs to support different processes. Arteriosclerosis can also lead to heart attack and stroke. As you age, this disease cannot be totally prevented. The body undergoes slow deterioration, and this is one of the many conditions you can acquire through your lifetime. The next cardiovascular disease is known as peripheral vascular disease. This condition is directly related to other heart diseases we've discussed earlier. When the arteries are blocked and become constricted, oxygen is not properly distributed within the body. Peripheral vascular disease is a blood circulation disorder that affects the blood vessels outside of the heart and the brain. This lack of oxygen results to poor circulation of blood, typically along the blood vessels of the arms and legs. Over a prolonged period of time, this lack of oxygen supply to other surrounding arteries and nerves of the body will result to further complications not only in the limbs but also to other internal organs. The ninth type of cardiovascular disease is called congestive heart failure. This condition refers to the inability of the heart to pump blood at a life-sustaining rate. Congestive heart failure symptoms include fatigue, shortness of breath, and swelling. Causes of congestive heart failure include hypertension and heart diseases that were mentioned earlier in the discussion. This disease can also be prevented by modifying your lifestyle and engaging more in regular physical activity or exercise. Ultimately, when these heart conditions are not taken care of or prevented from happening, the result would one way or another lead to this condition called stroke. Are you familiar with this disease? Unlike cardiovascular diseases that target the heart, stroke is a condition that affects the brain. The lack of oxygen and high blood pressure within the heart causes the brain to have a lack in supply of oxygen. This condition is very serious and can lead to paralysis or worse, death. Some strokes are minor and affect only small parts of the brain, but there are cases where the strokes are massive, causing large damages to the brain. There are a lot of underlying causes for stroke, but the heart diseases mentioned earlier are the usual cause of this condition. Those are the different cardiovascular diseases, their causes, and known symptoms. These things that you have learned today can be of great benefit, especially when you caught yourself in situations where these conditions occur. The goal of this part of the lesson is for you to be knowledgeable enough about making wiser decisions with your lifestyle of choice. All of these conditions can happen to anyone at any given point in time. One or many of the risk factors mentioned earlier could be the cause of these diseases. The important thing is to live an active lifestyle and make better habits for yourself, like avoiding excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, or even sleeping late. Now that you already know that the heart is a muscle that needs to be challenged, let's look at how physical activity can directly affect this internal organ. First is that physical activity increases the functionality of the heart to circulate blood and oxygen all throughout the body. When you are active, your heart rate increases, and it generates extra effort in pumping more blood to your system. If you continuously perform regular physical activity, you specifically strengthen your heart and keep your whole body strong for a longer period of time. Second is that physical activity directly reduces the risk of heart diseases, hypertension, stroke, and early death. When your blood is circulating properly within your system, all your internal organs are properly supplied with oxygen and nutrients it needs on a daily basis. A strong heart reduces your risk of conducting heart diseases. It lowers your chances of obtaining atherosclerosis because the diameters of your arteries increase when you move. Studies have also shown that an increase in heart function leads to an increased efficiency in your blood vessels. When you exercise, your body builds new networks of nerves that increase your level of vigor and vitality. When this is so, your body is much more capable of performing vigorous tasks and you are protected from different kinds of diseases. Keeping active is one of the best ways of preventing yourself from gaining unnecessary diseases that would lead to a lot of complications and worse, your death. So you better start moving soon and enjoy the benefits of this to your heart. And lastly, physical activity provides your body with higher performance, functionality, and well-being. When your heart is strong and active, you look at the world with more vitality and energy. This outlook makes you become more productive and efficient with the tasks you are to perform at hand. You must always stay away from a low fitness zone and gear towards the high fitness zone. Remember the discussion we've had from the fitness tests? What skills can you perform in able to develop your heart? Think about it. A strong heart would ultimately lead to a better life. Can you still remember what specific health-related fitness component is related to the heart? Yes, cardiovascular endurance is the component directly related to the functions of a healthy heart. Without cardiovascular endurance, you would have a hard time to develop other health and skill-related fitness components. Can you still remember the exercise prescription for the cardiovascular endurance? What type of activity must you perform to develop this specific organ? The exercise prescription for a healthy heart includes aerobic activity performed 3 to 6 times a week, with durations ranging between 20 to 60 minutes that could be intermittent or continuous. And the best way to determine your exertion is by monitoring your heart rate through the resting heart rate or RHR and your heart rate after exercise. Can you name some aerobic activities that you can do to improve your fitness? Walking, jogging, and running are simple activities that you can perform to enhance this avenue of fitness. In this part of the lesson, we will do some basic computations. The computations that you will learn today can be used in your physical fitness journey. Heart rate measurements are a good indication of how much effort you are putting in an exercise routine. These computations will give you the enough skill to determine your effort in physical activities so that your fitness journey will be maximized. Get your calculators ready, for you will learn how to compute for your maximal heart rate or MHR, your heart rate reserve or HRR, your threshold heart rate or THR, and you will determine your target heart rate zones. During this part of the lesson, you will also determine how much effort you are supposed to put in an exercise program based on the ratings of perceived exertion or RPE table. Let's begin with your maximal heart rate. This refers to the age-related number of beats per minute your heart does when it is at work during maximum effort. You can calculate for this using this formula. 220 minus age is equal to your maximal heart rate. Try computing for your maximal heart rate now. Say for example, you are 25 years old. Putting this in the formula, your solution would be 220 minus 25. The answer for this is now 195 beats per minute. This formula has been used for many years, but it has recently changed to accommodate gender, age, and activity level differences. That is why at present, the more accurate formula for determining your maximal heart rate is 208 minus 0.7 times your age is equal to your MHR or maximal heart rate. Now, try computing for your maximal heart rate using this new formula. Let's use the same example a while ago. The solution would now be 208 minus 0.7 times 25. You will first calculate for the answer of the solution inside the parenthesis, which is 0.7 times 25. And the answer is now 17.5. Placing this value to resemble the formula, you will now have this solution, 208 minus 17.5, and the answer is now 190.5 beats per minute. Round off this value into a whole number, and your maximal heart rate is now at 191 beats per minute. What does this value mean? 191 beats per minute means that during an exercise activity, this is the only level that your heartbeat range must be in. Should you exceed beyond this heart rate level, it will become very dangerous to your heart and it might cause you to faint or experience certain heart complications. What was your maximal heart rate? Take note of your result and remember to write it down where you can remember, so that in case you perform an exercise activity, you would know how much effort you are engaging your body in. The second way of measuring your heart rate intensity is by calculating for your heart rate reserve or HRR. This is simply the difference between your maximum heart rate and your resting heart rate. Knowing the heart rate intensity helps you to reserve energy for the next level of your exercise program. The formula for computing your heart rate reserve is this: maximal heart rate or your heart rate after exercise minus your resting heart rate is equal to your heart rate reserve or HRR. Here's an example for you to better understand this heart rate intensity. Try computing along using your own heart rate measurements. Example: if your maximal heart rate is 191 beats per minute and your resting heart rate is 72 beats per minute, translating it to the formula above, your solution and answer would now be 191 beats per minute minus 72 beats per minute, which is equal to 119 beats per minute. What this value means is that during a bout of exercise, your heart should maintain this level of beats per minute in order for you to finish the activity. The next way of measuring your heart rate intensity is through determining your threshold heart rate or THR. This simply refers to the level of your heart rate at which you should only be training in. You can easily determine your threshold heart rate using this formula: your heart rate reserve or HRR multiplied by 40% with the total added to your resting heart rate or RHR. From the example values a while ago, the person has a heart rate reserve of 119 beats per minute and a resting heart rate of 72 beats per minute. Putting these values in the formula, the solution would now be 119 times 0.40 and the result is 47.6. Continuing the formula, 47.6 must now be added to the resting heart rate, which would yield this solution, 47.6 plus 72, and the answer is 119.6 beats per minute. Rounding off the value into a whole number, the example yields a 120 beat per minute threshold heart rate. How about you? What were your heart rate reserve and threshold heart rate results? We will discuss what these values mean after all the computations have been made. The last computation for you to determine your heart rate intensities is by calculating your target heart rate zones. These zones determine your heart rate capacity at certain intensities of your exercise, while aimed at reaching your specific fitness goals. The table below shows 3 different zones and their corresponding fitness goals in exercise. Zone 1 is for weight loss and endurance building, with your target heart rate of reaching 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. Zone 2 is at 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate, aimed at weight maintenance and still improving your cardio fitness. And lastly, Zone 3 is where your maximum heart rate is aimed at a percentage greater than 80%. When you are in this zone, you are performing very heavy activities and interval workouts. This is how you compute for your target heart rate zones. Try computing along using your own results from the previous computations and always round off your number to the nearest whole number. In the example a while ago, the subject had a 191 beats per minute maximal heart rate. The first computation is for Zone 1, where the subject's effort is between the 60 to 70% range of his maximal heart rate. The formulas will now be maximal heart rate times 0.6 and maximal heart rate times 0.7. The solutions and answers are now 191 times 0.6, and the answer is 114.6 beats per minute, rounded off as 115 beats per minute, while 191 times 0.7 yields a 133.7 beats per minute result, rounded off as 134. Further computing along your target heart rate, we go to Zone 2, where the effort of the subject is between 70 to 80% of his maximal heart rate. The formulas will now be maximal heart rate times 0.7 and maximal heart rate times 0.8. The solutions and answers are now 191 times 0.7 yields 133.7 beats per minute, rounded off as 134 beats per minute, while 191 times 0.8 has 152.8 beats per minute answer, rounded off as 153 beats per minute. And the last part of the computation is for Zone 3, where the subject performs at zones greater than 80% of his maximal heart rate. The formula will still be maximal heart rate times 0.80, and the solution is now 191 times 0.8. But the result is that the subject must now perform with the heart rates greater than 152.8 beats per minute or 153 beats per minute. What do all these values mean? Analyzing all the numbers that we have gotten from the example, let's look at the subject's target heart rate for each zones. For Zone 1, if the subject is aiming to train for weight loss and building endurance, his heart rate intensities must only be in between 115 to 134 beats per minute. For Zone 2, if the subject is aiming to manage and maintain his weight while still improving his cardio fitness, his heart rate intensities must only be between 134 to 153 beats per minute. And lastly, for Zone 3, if the subject is at high-intensity workouts or is undergoing rigorous training, his heart rate intensity can fall over 153 beats per minute. What do your results reveal about your heart rate zones? Did you yield results that are lower or higher than these examples? Just take note of your score in a clean sheet of paper. You might need that when you engage in a regular physical activity soon. The last and the easiest way to determine your level of effort is through the use of the ratings of perceived exertion table. This prevents you from stopping and counting your heart rate during exercise. Oftentimes, this type of heart rate intensity is more reliable and easy to perform because it only requires you to be honest about how you truly feel when you are exerting effort in exercise. The chart ranges from 6 to 20. Level 12 is usually the zone of your threshold heart rate, while level 16 is zone 3 of your target heart rate zone. If you seem to be rating yourself at intensities that are greater than your normal effort, your subjective RPE assessment signals your body to slow down. But if you are performing below effort, your RPE rating should also be a signal for you to exert more in your exercise. Why do you need to learn about heart rate exertion? Knowing your heart rate intensities during exercise helps you to reach your target during exercise. Whether it is to lose weight or to just increase your energy, heart rates are a good measure of how well you can achieve these goals for yourself. Second is that these heart rate intensities make your exercise time more optimal. It is always important every training session that you must bring your heart rate above its threshold and reach for a specific heart rate target zone. This way, you are maximizing your exercise time and the benefits that your heart can get from the exercise bout you have engaged in. And the most important reason for learning about your heart rate exertion is for you to determine your cardiovascular fitness. This is where questions like, are you doing enough? Are you exerting effort? Or, am I feeling any challenge from this? Should pop in your head during an exercise. Your heart rate says so much about your level of effort and fitness. Are you overwhelmed by the details of this series of computations? All of these things are simple calculations that can also be performed with the use of a heart rate monitor. These gadgets are quite expensive in the market. That's why being active also entails you to learn how to get your pulse rates from your carotid or radial arteries. Heart rate monitors come in pairs, where a strap is attached to the chest area that senses heart pulses. This strap then signals the readings to the watch so that you get to see how much effort your heart is performing. A lot of individuals who use this equipment achieve higher levels in their training because they are completely aware of how their heart is exerting effort. This can also be used as a safety measure for individuals who have heart conditions engaging in physical activity where strict monitoring of their heart is prescribed by their physicians. Everything you need to know about the heart has been discussed in this lesson. The most important thing you need to remember is that the heart is a muscle that needs to be challenged regularly. This way, you are preventing it from acquiring diseases and you are strengthening it to reach its maximum potential. Keep note of all the computations you did today. This way, when we start with exercise activities, you know how much effort you should be exerting.